Sir Isaac Newton was born into a Puritan family in Woolsthorpe, a small village in Lincolnshire near Grantham, on December 25, 1642. Sir Isaac Newton was an English mathematician, physicist, astronomer, theologian, and author who is widely recognized as one of the greatest mathematicians and most influential scientists of all time. His book Philosophiæ and Naturalis Principia Mathematica, first published in 1687, established classical mechanics. Isaac Newton predicted the world will end in 2060. Isaac Newton was a well-known scientist who is most known for his work on the laws of gravity. But in his leisure time, he dabbled in projects befitting Voldemort. Newton was on a quest for the Philosopher's Stone, a legendary tool that can turn any object into silver or gold and grant mortals perpetual life. In his latest book, Isaac Newton, the asshole who reinvented the universe, author Florian Friestatter paints Newton as a thoughtless genius with weak social skills and a nasty disposition who, despite his scientific ability, was also committed to alchemy. Alchemy was, not merely a hobby for Newton, he writes. It's more true to call Newton's physics research a hobby, which he crammed in between his theology and alchemical studies. Newton was so fascinated with the occult that he built his own chimneys and furnaces to conduct experiments. He revered alchemy so much that he never discussed it in public and only wrote about it in code. Here's one example of his writings: this red powder is Flamel's male wingless dragon, because it is one of the three components used to make the bath of sun and moon after it has been removed from its usual powder. Newton jumbled his alchemical formulas on purpose. In his formula for a philosopher's stone that purportedly tripled wealth, he utilized ingredients like fiery dragons, doves of Diana, and eagles of Mercury. Confusing writings by would-be medieval magicians may contain such phrases. They are, however, Newton's. Friestatter writes. Newton saw alchemy as just another technique to comprehend the universe, Friestatter said in an interview with the Post. He was convinced that the genuine God resides not only in spirit but also in matter. As a result, some form of holy substance, some vital component of matter capable of changing everything into everything, was required. The study of alchemy was just as important to Newton as the study of science. Newton, who was born in England in January 1643, showed early on that he would not follow a traditional course in life. In the book, Friestatter writes, from the outset, Newton was an unusual and awkward chapter. What is going to happen to me? I'm going to put an end to it. I'm speechless and unable to do anything but cry. I don't know what to do. He composed these bleak phrases in his journal while still a teenager. Newton, who was smarter than his contemporaries, had a solitary childhood due to his father's death before his birth and his remarried mother's decision to send him to live with grandparents. In a diary he kept when he was 19, he acknowledged to peevishness with his mother, but he also wrote of wishing death and hoping it to some and threatening my father and mother Smith to burn them and the home over them. When he originally began his scientific career, he made significantly more sacrifices in his search for ultimate truth than others. Right from the start, Isaac Newton ticked all the boxes as a mad professor, Friestatter adds, noting that the young scientist only slept 3 or 4 hours a night and ate seldom. As a young man, he poked himself in the eye with a needle to learn more about the nature of life. Newton wedged the object between his eyeball and the socket, allowing him to press the eyeball from behind with the needle's point. As a result, he was able to alter the shape of his eyeball and examine the impact on his visual experience. When he moved the needle, he saw rings of all sizes and colors that changed as he moved it, but vanished when it was still. Newton took another risk with his eyes when he stared as long and hard as he could into a solar eclipse to see how it affected his vision. Friestatter writes, he made it through all of these self-experiments without losing his sight, and he was captivated by the results. If he stared at the sun long enough, he could see after images and weird colors that were certainly not real. Despite the exciting results of his research, Newton was concerned about his eyes and spent 3 days in a completely dark room, only to emerge when they had returned to normal. Newton, meanwhile, immersed himself in alchemy, earning the moniker Jehovah Sanctus Unus or Holy God from his peers. He even went so far as to predict the end of the world. According to Friestatter, based on detailed investigations of ancient writings, the world would reset in 2060, when the kingdom of God would dominate the earth. Meanwhile, Newton chided other doomsayers for forecasting a more impending end of the world scenario. Newton boldly declared, "It may end later, but I see no reason for it to end sooner." Newton spent a lot of time studying religious books and trying to piece together a timeline of past events to get all those stories organized and into order, adds Friestetter. He was sure that God had already predetermined future events. Newton derived various prophetic time periods from the Bible. 2060 would be a new beginning for him, perhaps followed by war and disasters, but eventually the beginning of a new divine era. Newton passed away on March of 1727. While Friestetter's preoccupation with alchemy reveals a slightly crazed side of the scientist, he insists that it should not distract from his reputation or legacy as one of history's greats. Newton was a genius like no other, with the possible exception of Einstein. No man has had such a significant impact on our understanding and perspective of the world before or after Isaac Newton. He proved that the world is understandable, that natural laws exist, and that they can be stated precisely and mathematically. He was a forerunner of modern science.